Welcome to our interview with Mr. Wilkinson, the head teacher. Our names are Samir, Alicia, Bowen and Pura. What inspired you to become a head teacher?
What inspired me to become a head teacher? I've always wanted, as a teacher, and I always think I am a teacher first, that's my first job as a teacher, I always wanted to be part of leading a school where we could have a positive impact on children, young people's lives, to make things better for them, perhaps beat the odds, to make things better for them, give them better outcomes, help develop young people to be seen in the eyes perhaps of the public of being good citizens, because not all young people are. My mum's 85, she thinks I'm crazy because you've got all those children and children aren't always nice, they have their hoods up and they stand together in groups and sometimes they're noisy, and for me leading a school is an inspiration itself, and I have an inspiration to try and lead this school to be a strong school with good outcomes, but where also the children leave here to get good jobs because they are good people.
How long have you been a head teacher for?
Okay, I've been a head teacher, this is my third year as head teacher of the Benrose School, all of the school. I was head of the secondary phase for a year and a half, so you could say I've been ahead for 5 years, or you could say I've been ahead for 3 years with complete control over the school. So I came to Benrose in 2003, before you were born, and I became head of the school in 2015.
So you were there for 3 years.
This is my third year, yes. I started in September 2015.
Have you been a head of another school?
No, I haven't, no. So I've worked in 4 other schools, including Benrose. So my first school was a boys' school in Leicester City, called Lancaster Boys' School. I then became head of PE at a school called John Ellis, and I was promoted there to be head of PE and head of Year 11. I then moved to another school in Leicester called New College Leicester, where I was assistant head teacher in charge of Key Stage 4. And then in 2003 I came to Benrose, where I was in charge of behaviour and inclusion, then curriculum and timetable, then achievement and standards, head of school, and then head teacher. So this is my first headship. I only planned to be a head of 2 schools. So my long-term plan was to be at Benrose for 7 years as a head teacher. So I came here in 2015. So when will I be thinking maybe about leaving?
I think 2022.
2022. I'm not saying I will leave in 2022, but that would be when I would be thinking about, right, okay, I've been here, seen one whole cohort through, I've seen the primary children come through from year 5 right through to the year 11, and then I will think about perhaps looking to another school.
How do you pay for the schools?
How do I pay for the schools? Okay, how do I pay for the schools? I don't pay personally, so it doesn't come from my pocket, it's not my money. But every year the school is given a budget, and our budget is calculated by the number of children we have in school, and some other complex things around that. So the school has about 6.2 million a year. So my job in February is to look at the budgets and work out how many staff have I got and how much will they cost for me to pay for them. What other things do we want to do? In terms of buildings, books, resources, and work out a budget for that. So we start with a budget of 6.2 million. We work out the staffing, and then we work out other things around that, energy. So how much do we spend on gas and electric every day? How much do you think?
Over 1 million?
A day.
Oh.
Okay, so one day's gas and electric is £300. Okay, my gas and electric bill at home is £100 a month. Okay, so you can see at the size. So with things like that, I've got to pay for gas, electricity, water, and then you work it all out, and then you try and make sure that all the money adds up. Yeah? And I like to have a little bit of money spare. And a little bit of money spare is about 150,000. So I like to have that just in case something goes wrong.
If you could have any other job, what would it be and why?
If I could have any other job, I would love to have been a sportsman person of some description. Whether that be a professional sports player, or a professional sports coach, or a professional sports official. I'd love to have done something professionally in sport. That was my job for a long period of time. I've played football, I've refereed basketball, but it's never been a full-time job. I'd love to have had a full-time job in sport somewhere.
What is it like to be a head teacher?
Exciting. There are days when you are frustrated. Fire alarm, I'm frustrated because the children aren't in learning, and that frustrates me, but it's important that I see all the children get out of the building safely and their behaviour is good outside. They're really important things to me. So those challenges. I have real aspiration around headship. I want the children are the number one priority in school. I always say children first, adults second. So the children are the thing that we're here for, and we need to make them the best they possibly can be. So that for me is a real priority, and that's something that I'm really keen for. There are really frustrating days. I'm quite impatient. Okay, I want things to happen quickly, and when you're working with 1,100 children, 250 adults, sometimes you can't always get them to move really quickly when you want something to change. It takes time, so I'm quite impatient and I want things to move quickly. I like seeing young people happy. I really like that when they're smiling. I like to see staff smiling, when they've had an achievement with somebody or something's gone really well, for them to see that. So, there are lots of different things, lots of emotions that you get being a head that are very satisfying but sometimes frustrating.
So you're saying you like children a lot?
I do, yeah. I have 3 children myself, and they're all here. The children are the next generation. They're the people who'll be looking after me when I'm old. So it's important.
What football team do you support?
I support Liverpool. So I grew up in Liverpool. Nicole knows that question you asked before. I grew up in Liverpool until I was 15. And my parents moved, but they're the team I support. So I'm quite happy at the moment. Not so happy on Saturday when they lost, but I'm quite happy at the moment. Go on.
My teacher also likes, my friend's teacher also likes Liverpool.
Miss Cormac?
Yes.
You see. They're good people, you see.
How long have you been at university for?
Okay, I went to university when I was 18. I left when I was 22, so I was at university for 4 years. I've since been back to university to do part of a master's degree, and I'm currently going back to university again to do some more study around part of a master's degree for another qualification for part of the job I have. So you could say maybe 4 years to be a teacher, and then constantly dipping back in because we never stop learning.
How old were you when you became a head teacher?
How old was I? I was 45. So I was, about a middle age. Some people go young in their 30s. So I became head teacher here when I was 45.
What is your favourite car?
It was my favourite car. I drive an Audi, and I do like Audis, but I like cars. So I like lots of cars. So I like, to have a free choice. I'm not sure I could choose one, but I do like Audis.
What's the most dangerous thing you've done in your life?
What's the most dangerous thing I've done in my life? Crumbs. I've been involved in dangerous experiences. Some of them I've known about because I'm in control of it. Some of it I'm not so in control of. So I like skiing. I like skiing quite fast. So I've skied down Olympic downhill runs, not as fast as the skiers, but 60, 70 miles an hour, which is quite scary and quite dangerous. But I've also been involved in dangerous things where you think to yourself, oh, you know, I remember being 21 in the middle of New York, in the middle of Harlem, which is a really rough part of New York, in a car on my own, lost, not quite knowing what to do, whether to wind the window down and ask somebody and tell them that this English person, who clearly didn't know where he was, I'm lost, can you help me, give me some directions, or to wind the window up and just keep driving till I got out of Harlem to somewhere where I knew where I was going. Dangerous. It's nice to be in control of your own danger, but sometimes it's frightening to be not in control of it. Yeah.
If you only have one job, would you rather the primary or the secondary school?
If I could only have one job, that's difficult. That's really difficult. Because both jobs have got really different strengths and real opportunities. In the primary phase, you see the children as they come into education, and you see them start on their journey, often having some very basic skills, and they develop them, and when they leave in year 6, they can read, they can write, they can have a conversation, they have loads of skills. And then equally, you've got the other skill set in secondary, where you see them arrive and leave, often to go on to their jobs, to be mothers, fathers, go on to university. So you see it really at two ends of the spectrum. So I feel really, really blessed in some respects to be able to see both ends. So this morning I'm at a heads meeting, and they're asking me, with all the secondary heads of Derby, what happens in the primary school, and I can talk to them and they don't understand that. So I understand the full journey of where a child comes in at 3 in the nursery and then leaves at 19 in the secondary. I can see that whole journey, so I'm not sure I could split them up. I'm a secondary teacher, is my job. That's how I was trained as a secondary teacher. But I've learned about primary phase, and I've learned to love that part of school life.
How did you become a head teacher?
How did I do it? I don't know. Some people say you could do that job, you could be good at that. You need to have motivation to do it, you need to have drive. That you want to lead something that's quite big, because 1,100 children, 250 staff is big. You've got to want to lead that. You've got to want to make things better or drive success. Sometimes you go away thinking, why do I do this? So yeah, it's really difficult. Just because I like children, I like working with children. I think children are really, really positive things to work with. Frustrating at times, but really positive. To answer your question. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Where is your favourite place to go on holiday?
I like to go on holiday in the summer. I like to go France, Spain. I like the beach. In the winter, I like to go skiing. So I like to go. So next week I will go. A week on Saturday I will go skiing to Austria. So I like skiing, but equally I like in the summer just forget school for 2 or 3 weeks. Okay, and just go and sit down and relax and have some fun with my family.
What jobs have you had previously?
Okay, you could say I've been in education all of my life. So I went to school when I was 5, and I will retire when I'm 60 something. And I've always been in education, so school, left school, went to university, left university, went back into school, and I'm still here. But I've done other jobs in my life when I was a student. So I have worked in a soft drink factory, making the concentrate that goes into things like orange juice, strawberry juice, apple juice, things like that. I've put jelly into pork pies as a job. I've coached football in America as a job, but they've always been for pocket money. So I've always I always worked in school. I've never had, you could say, a proper job that's not been in school.
I have one more question, but I don't know what it's. I don't know what it says. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that's actually to the question. It's this one.
Don't tap it. You can't read it when you tap it.
I don't know what it says.
What
is your hobby?
What are your hobbies?
What are my hobbies? Okay, so my hobbies are wide-ranging. I like playing golf. So I sometimes play golf with Mr. Pass in the primary phase. I'll play golf with some of the teachers in school. So I like playing golf. I used to be a basketball referee, and that was a hobby, but a very nice hobby because it was something I really wanted to do. So I used to referee professional basketball. So that was a hobby. I like gardening. I like trying to keep fit. Not always successfully, but I like to do it. I like going on holiday. My children now are, so my boy plays football, so I like to go and watch him play football. My daughter does swimming, so I like to go and do those type of things. So just things that are generally quite physical, energetic things, so they're the things I quite like being involved in. Yes.
Can I ask you my homemade like I figured out myself.
Go on.
If your daughter and your son went to their things at the same time, who would you go
Crumbs.
basically go to watch?
I'd go 1 week to see my daughter, and the other week I'd go to see my son. It depends. That's a really difficult question. Okay.
Do you have any brothers or sisters?
I have a sister. So my sister is 5 years younger than me, and she lives in Northamptonshire.
What jobs did your parents have?
Okay, so my mum's 85. So you have to think, my mum lived through the war, so she's old. So my mum's job was to design the filters that go into cigarettes. So she used to design the filters and the filter paper to go into cigarettes. So her job was to design the paper so that as the tobacco burned, the paper burnt at the same time. So if the paper burns too fast, the tobacco falls out. If the paper burns too slow, that you can't smoke the tobacco. And then she had to design the filters that went in there. So that was her job. And my dad designed paint. So he designed paint that was flexible. So things that he did, he was involved in designing the paint that went onto Concorde, because it has to be able to stretch. The stuff that goes onto cricket bats, because it has to be able to absorb impact and not shatter. So he was about making flexible paints that would expand and contract quite big margins to do with certain products. So a plane going into the sky, cold, on the ground it's hot. Cricket bat, impact, it's got to be able to absorb the impact and not shatter. That was my dad's job. Yeah.
You know tobacco?
Yeah.
It's a type of plant.
Correct.
I think it's grown in China.
I don't know where it's grown. My mum will talk of stories in 1960s, so maybe even before your parents were born, where she would have a cigarette in every gap of her hand, and she would be smoking them to try and test them. Because in those days, smoking was not deemed to be. Now everyone knows it's going to kill you eventually if you smoke. She would talk. She doesn't smoke now. She stopped smoking in 1970s. But she would talk about that. Checking cigarettes.
I have no more.
Is that it? Very good. Different questions. Some same questions from last year. Some different questions, but well done. So what will you do with this now?
Is it going to be uploaded to the BBC website?
Okay.
And school website.
So well done. Very good. Good questions. Well spoken. So well done. Congratulations.